Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez. I am your host, Jordan Ramirez, and joining me today is our special guest, his Keith Brooks. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jordan. It's
Thank,
nice to be here.
thank you so much. And before we start talking about today's movie, could you give us a little bit of your background and let our audience know who you are?
Sure. So, my name's Keith Brooks. My company is B2B Whisper, and I generally work with people in the B2B space on how they're approaching their sales, their business, their pricing, and work with people on a lot of different aspects of their competition as well. So basically, a lot of go-to-market type strategy. In the past, I've also worked with people on their management skills, podcast guest, and hosting um, capacities.
Hmm.
And during the year, I speak at 2 to 4 conferences a year, generally on either business topics or some past technology, which I was responsible for many years.
Okay, that sounds good. That's good enough. Thank you for it. So the movie that he has chosen for today's episode is Clue, celebrating its 40th anniversary from 1985, directed by Jonathan Lynn and starring in, I'll do this in order, Eileen Brennan, Tim Curry, Michael McKean, Michael McKean, Madeline Kahn, Christopher Lloyd, Martin Mull, and of course, oh my gosh, I might be misremembering one. I think I have it here in this little book here. Eileen Brennan, Tim Curry, Madeline Kahn, Michael McKean, Christopher Lloyd, Martin Mull, and Lesley Ann Warren as
Oh,
part of the
yeah.
cast. Yes. So why did you pick this movie yeah, why did you pick this movie?
So, I think originally I gave you two movies, which were
Hmm.
very similar for that matter. Murder by
Yeah.
Death, which is, I think, from 76,
Yeah.
um, and Clue, right? Very
Yes.
similar movies about whodunits, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Clue actually, because it actually did something no other movie has done in the same respect.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I was around back then, saw them in the movie theater, and depending on which theater you went to and what time, you actually saw a different ending of the movie.
Mm.
Nowadays, those of us, who stream it or have it on DVD or however we want to watch it,
Mm-hmm.
we tend to see Tim Curry, mostly Tim Curry, run through all the different endings,
Mm-hmm.
right, at the end. But
Yes.
when you saw it in the theater originally, you only got to see one.
Mm.
And in some respects, this was actually the downfall of the movie while it was in the theater. And
Mm.
in some respects, it was what created the cult following that it had.
Mm.
Because no one had done something like that, where if you went to the movie, you didn't know which one you were seeing.
Mm.
I know over the years there have been other movies that had um, slightly different endings or alternative endings, but
Mm.
nothing like this where you you only got to see one.
Mm. That is
Um,
interesting. So I did see the one where they had like three endings, like A, B, and C. So
right.
and the when I saw this film, this is my second viewing of the film. I think when I saw it, I I didn't think of it as like a spoof or as a sort of farce on the murder mystery genre. I thought of it as a serious movie, as like a movie that was taking itself seriously. And then when I saw it again, it was it was in aspects more like a dark comedy because it was very much like the board game. And for me, maybe I view it differently than maybe anybody else who has seen the movie. Maybe because I didn't see it in a theater. I just like the idea of three different endings because of the different scenarios, just like in the board game. I
Yep.
think just like in the board game. But yeah, I guess I didn't see it when it came out in theaters. I only saw when it was on home video. So, do you have like any favorite scenes or any lines that come to mind when you watched this movie recently?
I mean, there's. It's funny. I was on a flight probably a month or two ago, and actually, it was on the plane. It was one of the movies you could watch,
Mm-hmm.
and I just had to watch it. And I've seen it dozens of times probably.
Mm.
And you know, it, it's the little things about it that when you get to watch it more and more, you can
Mm-hmm.
appreciate even more so. Like there's the opening scene where Tim Curry is arriving to the castle, the house,
Mm,
mansion, whatever you
mm,
want to call it,
okay.
and he has his bag with him because he's got to feed the dogs,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And of course, he feeds the dogs and moves their chain and does that stuff, and then he gets mad at the dogs because obviously, they've gone to the bathroom someplace in his staircase or whatever it was that he stepped on,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then that becomes a running gag throughout most of the first third of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Every time somebody shows up, everyone's like, "Ooh, what's that?" And everyone thinks it's them, until I
Mm-hmm.
think it's
Mm-hmm.
Professor Plum. One of them basically actually does step in and becomes a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like you were saying, like you can think it's a serious movie, but then that totally takes you down the path that it's not going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a comedy, possibly dark comedy, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you get into the characters themselves who show up and introduce themselves, but don't want to introduce themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even Tim Curry was like, no, I'm just a butler. I'm not supposed to know who you are. Of course, I know who you are, but I'm not supposed to, and how he explains it. And, Tim Curry was by far the greatest actor who probably could be the only one who fill this role.
Mm-hmm.
He's just so good.
Yes. I thought he was good in the role too, as well as the other actors, and each of the characters had their own personalities, defined by this movie. And the one thing I thought this movie, I think in my mindset, I think why it's so different from the others is because in most murder mysteries or in most films like this genre, sometimes people would think that they would get to see a big named actor or a big named star in this film, but a variety of the actors either worked on the stage or had mostly been doing character acting for a number of different years. So I think that's why you don't see a big name. You just see all these actors playing these different roles. I think that's the
Right.
reason why it felt like it was the board game. And I think what was different about this version of the movie was that unlike the board game, they were each given an alias instead of like an occupation that was supposed to go with their name, which I thought was uh, somewhat of a spin on it, but also a pretty interesting, like not trying to be too, one dimensional or too, I think the term for that is too campy for using like uh one color like a scarlet red for Miss Scarlet or yellow for
Right.
mustard because it would be too obvious. So they had to go with a different approach, but that's what I liked. And I also liked that each of the characters, uh, they each had their own like blackmail of why they were each invited to this mansion. And I may or may not remember from the board game that there was a character named Mr. Body, who was basically,
Well, that's whoever it was that died was Mr. Body in the game.
yes.
But the joke is, of course, he's alive when the movie starts.
Mm-hmm.
So, so it's kind of like everybody gets pulled into the game
Mm-hmm.
as they all show up. And obviously they find out they're part of something. And that's how they got around the mechanics of the game into a movie,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
Yeah, and I like that
Uh,
the other thing I liked about this film, and I know they did this years later, it feels very much you're watching a stage production of
yes.
a play, like a film production of a stage play, because it all takes place in one location. It's all set in the
Right.
household or in the mansion, and there were a few times that you did see them leave the mansion, that the movie does take place outside of the mansion, but it's only a few times. But the most of the movie takes place inside the mansion, and you get to see like the rooms, just like in the board game, and you get to see the secret passageways and the hidden
Yep.
passageways and the cellar, just like the game. And they had to try to work, as you mentioned, like they had to try to figure out the mechanics of how you get each of the characters inside each of these rooms. And also, I like that they had the weapons, like in the board game, the gun, the wrench, the lead pipe, the let me see, the gun, the wrench pipe, the
And
gun,
don't forget, they were all gifts. Remember,
yes,
he says, I have a gift for all of you. They all
yes,
open their box, and each one gets one of the weapons of choice.
yes. Uh, Yes, each had a weapon of choice, and I thought it was pretty clever that that was the way you had to introduce like the murder weapons in that structure, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah,
Hmm.
they're and then of course there's the maid,
Hmm.
who, at least on the game I had growing up as a kid, the maid actually is on the box, although
Mm.
not really a player. The maid, like, was periphery,
Hmm.
and maid, whatever they want to call her in the game, and and she's supposed to be listening and helping, but at the same time, later on she dies.
Yes.
So, she also serves her purpose. Everybody who has a purpose basically eventually either meets their demise or, um, you know, actually almost all of them meet their demise.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
The police, all the people, right? So it's the same kind of thing. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
everybody gets, but there are also, you were saying like about the stars. Eileen Brennan probably was the biggest star at the time,
Hmm.
name wise. Um, I mean, everybody had different kind of qualities and had done different things. And Tim Curry, obviously from Rocky Horror and some other
Hmm.
things. So, it wasn't like anybody was really an unknown, but there wasn't like any like serious main star to it. And that
Hmm.
also gave that ability of a more theatrical aspect because it's more of a group effort instead of one man or one woman leading everything.
Yep. That I think that's why it works in I think a different angle because it feels like you're watching a stage production, which the film did eventually have a stage production in the years after its release. Which
Right.
I haven't seen the stage production. I feel like I want to see the stage production. I don't know how they got to work around uh the the translation of the film to the stage, so I don't know how they did it.
Yeah, I mean, having worked, at one point I worked for Broadway theater, so I kind of have some idea of how they could do it.
Hmm.
But it would probably be like a multi-act aspect.
Hmm.
Staging could be done, you can easily do two levels, hard to do three.
Hmm.
So if you split the stage into like a main room and then side rooms with upstairs type things, you can kind of make the other rooms come to life.
I believe that.
But
Yeah.
like it could probably be interesting if you were like in the audience watching and everybody, let's say, is in the library, but then they take the secret passage to the kitchen. So as they open up the door or the fireplace, whatever it was, the mirror, I think, and
Hmm.
then they all start running through, the stage moves with them. So when they kind of open up the door in the kitchen, the stage of the kitchen is now facing the audience.
Hmm.
So I'd imagine it's probably something like that in order to accommodate that,
Hmm.
um, those kind of things.
Yeah.
And of course, the one of the more famous parts of the movie, of course, is when the bullets go off and he's counting and he's like 1 + 2 + 1 + 1 + 1. He's
Yeah.
like 1 + 2, like going through the whole thing, and like that also, just some of the things that become running jokes throughout, which are just part of the fun of the movie itself and keeping people thinking in mind about what happened. And of course, that parallels the old Inspector Callahan attitude that Clint Eastwood had in the Dirty Harry movie, which,
Hmm.
you're wondering how many bullets did I use?
Hmm.
You know, and there were other things like that throughout the movie that kind of parallel other movies and other things that people, would reference and think about.
Hmm.
Um, you know, and it's basically just a lot of fun, and it's hard not to enjoy it.
Hmm.
It's one of those things where no matter what you're doing, you just want to sit and watch because it's just so enjoyable just to watch it and appreciate it, which is just, it's rare to have movies like that.
Yeah. And I also like the comedic timing because what's also unusual about I wouldn't say unusual, but what's interesting about this film is the fact that it's also a very fast-paced movie because in the first half it starts out a little bit slow and then by maybe the second or third act it starts to accelerate like the way that they start to talk is fast-paced, the way that Tim Curry tries to explain how the murders are done, it's going faster and faster and it's all done
Right.
like at a rapid pace, like rapid fire
And that
dialogue.
was purposeful. They were trying to mimic the old movies of the 40s and 50s,
Hmm.
where you would see like the what do you
The
call it? the inspector or the detective, talking to
Hmm.
the woman in the office or whatever, and going back and forth. And that was really what they were aiming for
Hmm.
to get as the movie progressed. Like you said, it gets faster and faster because they were realizing they also were running out of time
Hmm.
and they have to do everything. And somewhere I remember reading, there's a point later in the movie where someone says, the police are going to be here in 15 minutes or whatever it is.
Hmm.
And in fact, that is exactly how the movie lays out.
Hmm.
So they planned it purposely correctly.
Yes.
So it does meet that exact moment. It's not just something that someone said. So it's little things like that that really make it even more enjoyable when you
Yeah.
realize that that actually is what happened.
And now a message from Jordan Ramirez for Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez.
I want to take a break from this episode to thank my listeners/viewers who watch the videos on my YouTube channel and listen to each new episode on Spotify. While this show is a labor of love and passion that isn't about the movies that I like, this is also a show that is about the films that you like. Have a film that you want to recommend to the podcast? Make sure to recommend it in the comments section on YouTube and on Spotify, and you will receive a shout out in a future episode. Want to be a guest on the podcast? Click on the sign up form link in the episode description for further details. If you like this episode or my previous episodes, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more interviews in the near future. The goal for this channel is to reach up to 100 subscribers both on YouTube and on Spotify. It's just that easy. And now, back to our regularly scheduled episode. Yeah. It's very, and I think I saw a documentary about the making of this film in which the producer Deborah Hill, I guess she was showing the cast just how she wanted the pace to go for like the last half of the movie. I guess she was showing them a Howard Hawks film, and I think
Yep,
Eileen Brennan said to the matter of fact, "Oh, this is before the method," so everybody just started talking very fast. So
exactly.
that's what she was that's what she was trying to show them. That's what she wanted the pacing of the film to be, and I was not aware, maybe seeing it the second time, that it was John Landis and Deborah Hill production, because they both were the producers of the film as well as Peter Guber, and
Right.
Jonathan Lynn contributed to the story and the screenplay. I don't know if but he's an interesting.
Don't remember.
I think he did, because the documentary also mentioned that I just finished watching it, that they had like 5 or 6 different writers who were trying to write the script, and then they gave up, and it just ended up being the story by credit to both John Landis and Jonathan Lynn, and Jonathan Lynn got the
Right.
screenplay credit, which I thought it does make sense that John Landis would incorporate his ideas, because it feels like he's doing it as an homage to those types of comedies he may have watched when he was younger, and he was trying to incorporate them in this movie. I think that's why the movie felt like it was from the period that it was supposed to set in, I guess.
Right. I mean, it basically is like the mid 50s Cold War era.
Yeah, very
So
much.
it kind of makes sense. And then they mostly kept to that. There's a few things people pointed out that weren't quite in the correct era, but it's a minor thing when you're staging the room and whatever it was that people picked on.
Hmm.
Yeah, but there were other people in the movie that people don't even think about, like the singing telegram girl who was a
Yeah.
member of the Go-Go's.
Mm.
Jane Weedland. Um, people don't always think about that, but at the time, the Go-Go's were huge, and she was trying to get into acting, or wanted to be an actress as well.
Hmm.
So little things like that where people just had little bits of it in the show,
Hmm.
which were meaningful for their own purpose. Then they explained who she was and why she was there. Everybody wasn't, anybody and everybody was part of something or somebody, right? So everything was interconnected. Everything was spiderweb to each other.
Mm.
Um, it's one of the funny things also, which for me was Eileen Brennan was also in Murder by Death.
Yes.
And somewhere along the line, I read an interview she did, comparing the two and talking about it. And she said, you know, obviously the movies are very similar in many ways, but she said that the nice thing it always was is everybody recognized her from both, and we've talked about that. And she was in many shows, it wasn't just these, but she said these are the ones that everybody always came to her and thanked her for doing it and being a part of it because she knew how much people loved it. And that was really a great feeling. And I think Tim Curry said something similar. He says, look, Rocky Horror paid the bills for theaters around the country, around the world for people. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, I probably didn't make as much money as the theaters did, he says. But, to know something I did that much for all these places, all these people, it's just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And Clue was the same thing. He's like, so many people and so many things they're just that were the same way. So it's just one of those things where the movie just became bigger than what it was at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and people keep finding it and keep loving it.
Yeah. So I don't, this might be something minor, and you don't have to, and if you don't remember it or maybe, so when this movie came out, did the company that owned the game Clue, were they heavily promoting the movie, maybe like in TV ads or maybe in their board game sets?
Don't remember. I think it's Milton Bradley that owned Clue in the States, but I don't. Parker Brothers, I think, owned
Yeah.
Clue.
Hmm.
What they did do was they did reissue the game with a different cover.
Okay.
I believe Lesley Ann Warren might be the only person who was on the cover from the movie. I don't
Okay.
remember.
Hmm.
But there was a reissue at that point, give or take.
Hmm.
They cleaned up. Everybody was newer, modern looking, whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
So it definitely was a little bit of that.
Mm.
Um, I just remember and I was, I don't know, let's see, what was I, like 15 at the time, like I remember seeing it and thinking, oh, cool. To me, it was like looking at Murdered by Death, but like a different group of people.
Hmm.
Um, I just thought it'd be fun to go see, and we did. I don't remember which one we saw in the theater,
Mm.
honestly. Um, but I mean, which ending? But it was just hilarious. And back then, we didn't have any way to see it again, so you either had to go watch it again,
Hmm.
pay to go to the theater and do it. But then we wanted to kind of figure out how would we not see the same ending, and we couldn't verify that part.
Mm.
Unfortunately, none of my friends worked at the theater. Otherwise, I would have asked them.
No, no, it's fine. Yeah, I was because I guess I was around when Parker Brothers did exist. They no longer exist because they're now owned by Hasbro, and now
Right.
Clue is a member of the Hasbro family. But I do, but I just wanted to look at like maybe the history of the game because in the documentary they talk about like the functions of the game, what is the purpose of the game, and they didn't get into like the history of when the game was developed and so on and so forth. They just talked about like that. But I after watching this documentary just recently, it's actually a pretty interesting story of how it came from being this little board game to now being a movie and now a stage play and now
And
it's
there's a whole series of books too for
yes.
teenagers, I think.
Yeah.
Um, it's like really interesting. All this
Yeah.
came out of, a movie that at the time didn't go anywhere and wasn't really appreciated.
Hmm.
But over time, it grew to be much bigger and better than what they thought it would be.
Okay.
I mean, overseas, especially like in England, Clue is called Cluedo.
Yes.
Um, and I believe it was brought over from there
Yes. It was
or copied from there.
I think I think they have a counterpart. So originally Clue was developed by this company called the Waddingtons in England, and then over here it was licensed by the Parker Brothers. So that was our American counterpart.
Okay.
So my connection to this film was very much the board game. I didn't know at the time that there was a movie version based on the board game because maybe I was in the early 2000s, maybe mid 2000s, I wasn't aware that a movie existed. And I didn't know that there was a whole fan base going to be around this film. I guess maybe I looked
Yep.
online and they had like maybe Clue fan clubs of the film or of the game, or they would dress up like the characters from the film, or they would have memorable lines, like they would quote them like either at conventions or what have not. And it's a pretty amazing take on
Right.
yeah.
Everybody loves Madeline Kahn's flames, flames, flames were coming
Hmm.
from my face. And,
Hmm.
how she did in her husband. And she's like, I prefer my husbands to be like everyone else that's dead and useless. And like
Mm.
all that kind of stuff like came out of that. That whole
Hmm.
flames thing, she says was just her improving that whole scene.
Hmm.
She said none of that part was written. She just did it all in one take and that was that. So
Mm. Yeah, I
sometimes the best part of things are unscripted.
yes. And that's the one thing I like about this film, that even though it feels like a stage play and also a comedy, that it also has physical comedy, and that it works better with actors who have maybe done comic performances in their background and also done serious things too, because it's a blending of both comedy and the serious that I think makes it so great. Uh, especially with Michael McKean's sort of comedic pratfalls, or Christopher Lloyd's pratfalls, or any of the other actors' pratfalls,
Right.
including Martin Mull as Colonel Mustard, or oh my God, any of the other actors that delivered these performances. I thought they were delivering great, not only physical comedy, but also great comic timing, which I thought was what made it sell for me.
Yeah, definitely a mixture of serious people and comedic people,
Hmm.
and the writing all together basically put it all in that way for everybody.
Hmm.
You're talking about like on the game. If I recall, at the end of the movie, everybody shows up as a as the card from the game, and then turns over to show the person in their name, who played who. So there was some tie-in at some point from the Parker Brothers people,
Hmm.
whatever that was. Yeah, I've never actually looked into that side of how they all agreed, but I know that it had been shopped around Hollywood for a long time before it actually got made. There were lots of people who have wanted to do it for whatever reason, and other things that go on, and you know,
Yeah.
Hollywood is its own little funny game. So,
Yeah.
but the fact that, as they say, the fact that it got made and it got put out and done, and just it's just a great thing.
Yeah, it is. And I know you mentioned like some of the I know you mentioned the lead from the Go-Go's. Was it the lead, or was it the backup singer from the Go-Go's who
I
was
think Jane was I want to say the bass player, but she might have been the drummer. I don't
okay.
remember.
Okay, so one of the members of the Go-Go's, and you had some other actors who played like the motorist or the cop, or uh
Right.
I didn't know this guy was the actor from WKRP in Cincinnati who played the police chief at the end of the
Howard
movie.
Hessman.
Yes,
Yeah, of course.
I
Yeah,
think we lost
he's
him.
great.
Yeah, he was a great actor. Wait, did we lose him in a year ago, or maybe I'm thinking of another actor from that show?
Well, a few weeks ago, we lost Lonnie Anderson from WKRP.
Okay,
But Hessman, I think, passed away about a year or two ago. Yeah.
yeah. But I didn't know that it was him until I after I saw the documentary, and I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know that
Oh,
that was him. Uh,
yeah.
I didn't
That
make
was
that
also
connection.
right around the time WKRP was big too. So he was just, I guess, on loan for the day, so to speak.
Yeah, I just like that he gets to appear in the three separate endings of the movie, which I thought was great. Uh,
Yep.
okay, so we're gonna wrap things up in about a few more minutes. So before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts on maybe those who have never seen the film, or maybe those who have seen videos about this movie? What can you let them know about your final thoughts?
So, I mean, if you've never seen the movie, like and you just want something really fun to watch for about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, whatever it is, it's definitely worth it.
Hmm.
Um, you don't need to know the game, truthfully. I
Hmm.
don't recall anything that really was game specific. Um, but it is a lot of fun. It's full of cast of characters, and it's got great one-liners. It's written very well. It's edited quite well as well. So there's no real downtime. Um, there's just there's all kinds of things, and if you're the type of person who really wants to try and you know solve these things for yourself, then by far it's one of the most original ways to kind of do it. So definitely, people should get out and watch it and listen to it, and then if you get so excited by it, as you were saying, and I've seen it as well, there's a documentary about it from someone who really enjoyed it and got a hold of all kinds of people related to the movie. I think that documentary came out a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's on
Um,
you can catch it on Tubi. That's how I got to see it. It's a really good documentary.
yeah. And also for people who really want to do something really expensive, if you can track down the original book that was put out for the movie, it
Mm.
has a fourth ending.
Mm.
And there's some other bits in the book that are not in the movie.
Mm.
That book, if you can even track one down, goes for like thousands on eBay.
Hmm. Wow. That's
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
So
yeah, that's amazing. Okay, that's great to. That's wonderful. All right, so where can my audience reach out to you, find you, and learn more about you?
you can catch me from our website at b2bwhisperer.com. You can find me on I'm on most social media, usually under KBMSG, which is my old moniker.
Okay.
Uh, but you know, there's lots of different ways to get a hold of people.
Okay, that's great to hear. So thank you so much, Keith, for talking about this movie, and it's been a blast watching this film the second time and also watching the documentary afterwards. And it's great talking with you about this film. And I hope that we meet again in the future to talk about another of the movies that you were talking about. You mentioned on the list that you sent to me Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, and maybe we could do one on that film the next time we meet.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Always interesting to talk about this stuff.
Yep.
So I appreciate it. Thanks, Jordan. It's been a lot of fun.
Okay, thank you so much, Keith. And thank you so much for watching this episode of Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez. This is Jordan Ramirez signing off. And until then, I'll see you at the movies. And Keith, thank you again for being on the podcast. And yeah, as I said, we'll get to talk again soon and talk about another one of your favorite movies.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you so much.